Welcome to a new video. Today I'm going to be using and reviewing a 1950s 35mm rangefinder camera with interchangeable lenses, and I'm going to be using it with a 50mm and a 90mm lens. Inside the camera we have a roll of Ilford Delta 100 ISO black and white film. So let's have a closer look at the camera first. It's time to have a closer look at the AKArelle 35mm rangefinder camera, which was built in West Germany between 1954 and 1957. Of this specific model, only 1205 were built, making it quite a collectible camera. I recently picked up this set, and it includes the 50mm Schneider-Kreuznach 3.5 and also the 90mm Staeble Telexon 5.6 lens. It's in full working condition, and I used an Ilford Delta 100 ISO black and white film. So let's dive into more details with regards to this camera. The AKArelle is a 35mm rangefinder camera with interchangeable lenses, and it's a very simple system to exchange your lens. It has a locking ring which you can turn all the way to the left to unlock the lens, and it comes out. And there's a little spigot inside the camera where you can align your lens onto the camera and use the screw lock mechanism to fix it to your camera, making it a very easy lens exchange. When we look at the top plate of this camera, we see top hand left the film rewind knob, including the DIN indicator. We have a cold shoe flash mount, the film frame counter, the shutter release button, and the film advance lever. Something interesting to point out with regards to rewinding your film: you need to simultaneously press this little button, which is marked as R for rewind, while you use this film rewind knob. So you can easily do that by pressing it with your thumb and then simultaneously rewinding your film. The camera body itself has two viewfinders. One viewfinder is meant for the 50mm lens and the other one is meant for the 90mm lens. And through this switch here you can either activate the 50mm or the 90mm viewfinder. The back opens by pressing these two knobs towards each other. Very easy, standard film inlay, and of course it clicks shut. On the front of the camera we see the shutter speed dial, which varies from a B bulb mode all the way through to 1/300th of a second. It is a leaf shutter built into this camera body. When we look at the lens, this specific lens, the 50mm, has an aperture range of 3.5 to f16, and it is a variable dial. It does not click, meaning that you could actually use in between apertures. And of course on the front we have the focusing scale. Now that we've had a closer look at the AKArelle, it's now time to look at the results which I was able to achieve with this camera. that I've been able to put a roll of film through this AKArelle, I thought I'd give you my first impression. The build quality of this camera is very high, and it is reasonably small and lightweight, weighing in at 550 grams, including its standard 50mm lens. The camera is also very quiet to use. You can hardly hear the shutter release. The double viewfinder does need some getting used to, because you will need to deal with and/or adjust for two different types of parallax when using both the 50mm and 90mm lens. Now, I've been using this camera in bright conditions with a 100 ISO film, and I've been doing all the photos handheld without a tripod, and the slowest possible shutter speed I could achieve was 1/50th of a second in combination with an aperture of f11. The 50mm goes down to f16 and the 90mm goes down to f32. Now, when using a rangefinder, you're going to use a zone focusing system because it is impossible to measure the exact distance from lens to subject for each image you take. So your adjustment of focusing is always going to be approximate. So you need a range within you can achieve a sharp image. f11 for the 50mm was sufficient. f11 for the 90mm was definitely insufficient. To achieve sharp images with the 90mm out in the field based on a zone focusing system, you might even need to go all the way down to f32. This means that next time around with this camera I'm going to use a higher ISO film, probably a 400 ISO, stop down even more on the 90mm to really test the qualities of this short telelens. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.